This is from Dom's Round Table, an update to Helldivers 2. They added a bunch of stuff. Let's see, because I'm evidently not in the loop.
Helldivers 2 has just had the biggest update yet. I have spent all day testing the new changes so that I can bring you a full and easily digestible breakdown of the most important and biggest changes that have been implemented as part of patch 1.000.2. For your viewing convenience, as represented in the chapters below, I've split this video up into 4 main categories. We shall firstly be reviewing brand new additions to the game. Then we'll be testing all the new balancing, that includes weapons, stratagems and enemies, etc. Next up, we'll take a look at the full list of fixes, and finally review all the known issues that will hopefully be resolved imminently in upcoming patches. So firstly, there has been 2 big additions to the game. Straight away, you'll see that the level cap has been increased from 50. In fact, this now goes all the way up to level 150. And all the additional experience that you've been gaining behind the scenes has been granted to you to reflect this. I know this has caused some controversy with some players because they wanted that dopamine hit of every single level from level 50 all the way to level 150. Personally though, I think this is great because I'm really glad to know that all of that extra experience I've been earning didn't go to waste. It's nice to know that it was being tracked and it has been banked, and now we get this big level boost.
Oh, that's
with
cool.
Some players already being level 100 plus.
So they've actually been banking it all this time. So it's not like they just now open the floodgates. If you've been playing another 50 levels worth of XP and accumulated that, then it still gets applied to you. That's super cool. And it shows like they thought ahead. They planned all of this. So they were banking it. That's crazy. That's super cool.
And the next big important addition is 2 new weather effects affecting many planets.
Ooh.
Most of the footage you'll see today is on a planet with the new planetary hazard sandstorm. I don't think I really...
Meanwhile, Suicide Squad restarted everyone back to 0. Yeah, people were not thrilled about that. People were really not. And apparently they also went down for maintenance the other day, and when they came back on, all they would acknowledge, they were just like, yeah, now you're ready to go explore all the new content. And people were pretty livid in the replies to their X post, just because it was like, guys, you just refusing to acknowledge the problems players are having with the game doesn't help. Like it makes you look like you think we're stupid, or it makes you look out of touch. Like it just doesn't work. It's crazy, but that's what they do. And that's why they have 768 players in game right now versus the Helldivers count of 179,000. A little bit of a difference.
saw many, but you will notice the more you play on these planets, as it says, dense sandstorms reduce mobility and greatly reduce visibility for both enemies and friendly units. And next up, though not one I could test yet because there aren't currently any planets active with this environmental condition, is blizzards. Intense blizzards reduce mobility and moderately reduce visibility for both enemy and friendly units. They're the 3 big additions, though arguably most of the balance changes we are about to discuss could also be viewed as additions because...
Yeah, spear, number of missiles, supply of rocks from 1 to 2, heavy machine gun, fire rate mode change.
It's going to completely change up the meta, for better or for worse. And I am particularly frustrated because I was halfway through a very long video where I was reviewing the new and updated list of best weapons, and that's all completely gone out the window, so I'm going to start that again. However, if you do want to make sure you catch that video as soon as it's released, please consider subscribing to the channel, and thank you so much for doing so. So now let's talk about all of the new balance changes. The first few come in the form of missions and mission objectives. Starting with the Retrieve Essential Personnel mission, the enemy spawn points have been moved further away from the objective, which I know people have been asking for.
Yeah, that's great. It was really annoying for a while because whenever you would try to kickstart one of those missions, the second they spawn, they're right on top of you. I mean, it was really, really frustrating. So they've actually addressed that and moved them further away, so you have more time to deal with them before they reach.
Since this was first implemented, I'm so happy about this.
Yeah, it's around 300,000 players with PlayStation. Yeah, and that's, I mean, it's 11 a.m. on a Wednesday. Like, this is not even the weekend. And they're probably at like 250, 300,000 with everything counted. It's crazy.
As it states, this gives players a fairer chance of defending the location. There are also fewer civilians required to complete the mission on higher difficulties. Both, I'm sure you'll agree, very welcome changes. And also for the mission type Destroy Command Bunkers, now this has more objective locations. It was too easy before in comparison to other missions and people were farming it. So now it'll be much more of a challenge, and also it can now appear in operations from difficulty level 5. The final mission modifier balance, which is something I'm so darn excited about, is the fact that complex stratagem plotting and orbital fluctuations have both had their negative modifier halved. So these are nowhere near as taxing on you as they were previously. As you can see with orbital fluctuations, stratagem cooldown is now increased by 25% instead of 50%. And complex stratagem plotting now sees your call-in time increased by 50% instead of 100%. Both of these I felt personally were ridiculous, so this now seems pretty fair. Now let's talk.
You gotta admire that they're able to make these changes pretty quickly when all is said and done. Like, comparing it directly to other live service games, I mean, the Suicide Squad is the easiest one to point to just because it's released right around the same time. Rocksteady has, as far as I understand it, a bigger team and more resources behind them. And they've been in development for years and years and years. They got like a multi-year delay. The game was supposed to release 2 years ago. So like they've had every opportunity to build out post-launch content and new missions and all sorts of things to keep the game engaging. And they've completely failed. Whereas Helldivers too, like they just casually are dropping all new vehicles. Like they just introduced the mechs out of nowhere, and then they have tanks coming in, which people hadn't seen when the game launched. And there's just so much stuff that's coming out consistently that blows you away. You know, it's crazy. But a lot of it is just careful pre-planning. You know, they had this whole concept around the Helldivers, you know, systems of doing these missions, clearing out planets. All the missions are dynamic. And then they can also scale dynamically on higher difficulties. So that makes replayability really, really viable in the end game. And then on top of all of that, they didn't even show or release everything they had at launch, which was a decent amount of content and a decent amount of enemies and stuff. But they didn't even drop them all at launch. And I think at launch, the CEO of the company said that they had only shown off like 70% of the enemies they had designed for the game that they had ready to go. And we're seeing that now. I mean, they're just able to casually drop in new stuff out of nowhere, and it blows everybody away because it's like, oh my God, look at what this, I had no idea this was here. It's super cool. Super, super cool. Yeah, they've also added the AT8 bots, kind of look like from Star Wars. Yeah, we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that. Well, let's get through missions and stratagems and stuff. Weapon balancing, we can probably skip through because that's not super crucial. Armor balancing, bug fixes, that's all great. Known issues. So yeah, let's get through the stratagems and rebalancing here.
Talk about all of the new weapon and stratagem balances. I'll blitz through these as quick as I can because the point of this video is to keep it quick and concise for you, and there is a heck of a lot to get through. So starting with the stratagems, the arc thrower has had its charging inconsistencies fixed. What that means is it would fully charge and be ready to fire after random sporadic periods of time. Now it always takes exactly 1 second to charge. Also, it's had its distance reduced from 50 meters to 35 meters, which some people see as a nerf, but honestly, 50 meters was far too far. Honestly, apart from for sniper rifles, rockets, spears, stuff like this, you don't need to shoot 50 meters away. 35 is still loads, as you can see here. And also, the reason I believe this has been buffed is the third change to the arc thrower. It now has increased stagger. As you see here, it's even staggering berserkers. And this is very important because of something else that now can no longer stagger the berserker. So the arc thrower, trust me, is very, very powerful. Next up, the anti-material rifle just had a straight up damage increase by 30%. It doesn't have any more armor piercing. I know quite often armor piercing and damage can get muddied and confused in this game. So things that it's ineffective against, it is still ineffective against. But things that it can kill, it can now kill way faster. And honestly, I had a lot of fun with this in testing. So the anti-material rifle, definitely one to watch out for now. The guard dog now restores full ammo from supply boxes.
Oh, that's
I'm going to be honest
great.
with you, I didn't realize this thing ever completely ran out of ammo anyway. I thought it always just went into your backpack to reload, but apparently the amount of reloads in your backpack can run out, but now supply boxes will fully replenish that. I still think just use the laser. It's so much better. It pretty much never runs out of ammo, but it's made the guard dog a little bit more viable at least. Next up, both the recoilless rifle and the spear have had the number of projectiles increased that you restore from supply boxes. So the recoilless now restores 3 up from 2, and the spear now restores 2 up from 1. This is actually huge. This means that you can fully replenish both of these weapons with only 2 supply boxes, which is in line with grenades, with stim packs, and with most other support weapons. These 2 weapons just became significantly more viable. In fact, I was loving using the spear because now you can take out a full automaton outpost and you don't need to use 4 resupplies just to get the ammunition back. So the recoilless and the spear, though they haven't had straight up damage increases, cooldown reductions, anything like that, just increasing the amount of ammo restored from supply boxes is huge. Next up, the heavy machine gun's highest rate of fire mode has been reduced from 1200 RPM to 950, so it runs out of ammo slightly less fast. It's still garbage. I hate it. I'm never going to use it. And the final stratagem is the Patriot exosuit.
Booyah!
Rockets will now only penetrate armor upon a direct hit. So yes, this already garbage, squishy piece of crap has actually been nerfed. And rockets now only penetrate armor if you are very accurate and your enemies aren't moving around. More on the exosuit later though, because it has had a few buffs and it isn't as bad as it was. Now let's take a look at the weapon balancing. I love almost all of these changes. Some of these weapons now being
And they're actually
viable.
just coming out swinging with tons of stuff. That's crazy. That's crazy. But they've also added the AT8 Helldivers to AT8. Look at this. So this is from Reddit. Constipation. He's playing, just casually runs into that thing. What?
What you saying? Where? That's new.
Oh my god! He's on level 8 difficulty. That's crazy.
I just used my rail cannon.
Oh, Jesus, dude.
That's an AT8 secret. Oh my goodness, it's got a big turret on top.
Like, look at that.
Oh my goodness, man, try on it.
It's mad. A 500 kilogram bomb wasn't enough to blow it.
Fuck yeah. Oh.
Then it goes down. That's crazy. Now, most games, this would be like a big seasonal update. Like this would be the big selling point of a new season that, you know, has a new wave of cosmetics and microtransactions. And so if you want to get access to this, you got to get back in, and you know, it's just crazy. They just casually drop it for some players just to show them what they got. Like there's so much stuff here. It's crazy. You know what it is? It's pure BDE. That's all it is. That's like the whole of Helldivers. They're just making every other live service studio look like they have no idea what they're doing and haven't planned for anything. And that's my biggest thing with it. It's like you can see with this game that they planned ahead. They had tons of stuff in their back pocket that they could then sprinkle in to keep things interesting after it had launched. And they weren't expecting it to be this big of a deal, but they didn't reveal any of this. Even when they're like trying to sell the game to people, they didn't reveal this stuff. Even though this was ready, almost certainly by the time the game launched, you know, or at least showable. They probably could have put it in a trailer or something if they wanted to, but they didn't, because they didn't need to. And that allows them now to just come out swinging with this stuff. It's just genuinely stunning. Yeah. Arrowhead really call these companies busters. Yeah, it's baffling. But I mean, it just goes to show you that live service games can work. You know, it's really easy for us to hear the word live service, and it's just a filthy word. It's something you don't hear. If you hear live service, it immediately turns you off. You know, everything is just bad if it's a live service game. But Helldivers has shown, once again, as with some other games, that live service can work and can be super fun, can have its own place in the industry, and players can really connect with it. But the core fundamentals of video games still hold true. Like, it has to be fun, there has to be content there, and in the case of live service, there are other things you don't typically have to worry about with single player games, such as a steady drip of content and new things to keep you interested in coming back. And they've shown exactly how you should do it. To have a huge backpack full of goodies that you can bring out and sprinkle in to keep things engaging. You know, it's kind of like, I'm saying this as a father because it's something very relatable to me. It's like when you go out to do something like maybe a big group dinner or family get together or something with your toddler, and your toddler is just really easily distracted and gets bored very quickly and it just wants something to do. So as a parent, you have to make sure that there's like, okay, do you have your coloring sheet with your crayons? Okay, we'll color for a little bit. And when that starts to get old, you have to reach into your bag and pull out, oh, well, now I brought this puzzle. Let's do this puzzle together. Okay, you're bored of that. Well, let's put it away. And I brought gummy snacks. Okay, have the gummy snacks. Okay, those are gone. Well, look, I also brought you this. It's a fidget toy. Let's play with that. You know, you always have something else to keep them engaged. That's all live service games are. It's like parents keeping toddlers entertained. And Helldivers has shown how you do it. You just casually have a lot of stuff in your backpack to drop in when things start to feel a little bit stale. And I mean, this is something they don't even like really publicize in the press materials or the statements about the update or anything. They just casually drop it in for some players. And then they let clips like this go viral and spread through Reddit and Twitter and everything so that they sell it by themselves. You know, I think Helldivers 2 at its core is a game that's defined by its ability to captivate players and sell itself through word of mouth. They don't really need big commercial campaigns. They don't need huge advertising campaigns to sell like or to communicate what's in the newest update or anything. There's no real confusion about what's in the update because people are more interested in discovering the secrets for themselves. And I mean, you can see the effect. People love it. They devour it. Yeah, Luke just called gamers children. Yep. Sure did. Make a good game. It will be played. Okay, now you're talking crazy. Now you sound insane. Also, reasonable microtransactions, not trying to monetize every possible thing in the game. Well, yeah, and Vince, it reminds me of something that the head of Arrowhead said, where he said, we feel we have to earn the right to monetize our game. We have to earn the right to sell you microtransactions and stuff. We don't start with the whole game built around that. We start trying to like create a really solid game and then bring you the monetized stuff on the side. Oh yeah, and then the other stuff, like they just casually bring in automaton ships. You know, the whole premise too of like this intergalactic war with evolving enemies that change tactics and stuff. It's such a simple premise, but it makes so much sense when you look back on it. You're like, oh yeah, no, of course, like the automatons would change their strategies if what they're doing isn't working and like bring their airships out to attack you. Like, of course they would. That just makes sense, right? It's brilliant. It's brilliant. They've also been teasing the new enemy faction coming soonish. Yeah, I mean, I think eventually we're going to have like 3, maybe 4 enemy factions that we're fighting. And then they probably also toss in I would guess like some crossovers where maybe the bugs and automatons are on the same map together and you have to fight them basically at the same time. I think that could be really cool. So I'm fully expecting them to start doing stuff like that. But like, that's the thing. There's so much headroom for how they could combine and mix these things together. It's super cool. He took my thing.